Tonight on Behind the Lines with J.R. McGee, he'll examine China, predator or partner. You're listening to Behind the Lines with J.R. McGee. To participate, call in now. Dial 267-935-9042 and leave JR a voicemail. You can also email J.R. McGee your thoughts or questions you'd like him to address on the show. Email him at jrmcgeeradio@gmail.com.
Good evening, and welcome to Behind the Lines, intel you can trust. Tonight, we're going to do a deep dive on China. China's been in existence far longer than the United States and longer than most all of Europe. They're a very old country, they're an old culture, and I have to tell you, they play an excellent game of long-term strategy and risk management. Now, China's got three areas which they're engaged in very aggressively in the world today. These areas are trade, the South China Sea Islands, and Taiwan. I want to look at these three areas in particular because all three, China is beginning to be very aggressive and they're moving to express a dominance. They're trying very hard to be recognized and respected as a superpower. That is their goal, is to begin to be recognized and to operate as a world superpower. And they're very anxious to have that recognition. So those three areas are areas that they have chosen to engage in the world to exert their influence. Now, let's do a little background. First, I want to look at China as an economic power. Then I want to look at China as a political power. And then we're going to take a look at China as a military power. In terms of China and their economic status, their currency is the renminbi. And the renminbi is now considered to be a part of what's called a basket of currencies. This basket of currencies, as we've said earlier, is used for oil trades and also international trading. It's become a very respected currency, and it's being used across the world. China has a strong manufacturing base. In fact, they've taken a lot of the manufacturing from the United States. They've taken manufacturing from other countries. And manufacturing is beginning to increase in the quality of their output. I want to tell you a story. In the 1960s and 70s, the United States was very dominant in manufacturing. The quality of manufacturing in the United States was superb. Japan was just beginning to get involved in international manufacturing. In fact, my family bought a Datsun. It was a small Japanese car in the early 1970s, and I remember it very vividly. It was not a bad little car, but it rusted. It rusted horrendously. In fact, after about 3 years, it had holes all through it, so we got rid of it. In fact, the Datsuns had such a horrendous reputation for quality, they took them off the market, and Japan went back to the drawing board. They came back, and the name of the company was changed from Datsun to Nissan, and the quality was exponentially better. They learned from their mistake, and they began to produce a very good, high-quality car. Now, Japan in the 90s began to be a dominant manufacturing power. And then Korea. Korea, in the beginning, their manufactured goods were considered to be a joke. But now Korea is home to some of the finest manufacturing in the world, some of the highest quality. China is beginning to come up that curve. China is also buying massive amounts of resources and minerals all over the world. They're buying them in Africa. I was just in Brazil a couple of weeks ago, and I drove for about 4 hours through the countryside, and we saw mine after mine after mine, and they told me most of their minerals were being exported to China. They're also buying minerals in America. In fact, uranium-1 is the tip of the iceberg in terms of what China is purchasing in the United States. Now, China is also developing as a political power. They're currently equal with Russia. Xi Jinping just became president for life. Does that sound familiar? We've seen this before with people who became dictators. China is the only outside power to have any influence over North Korea. We're going to talk about that later tonight. China is also becoming a major player on the world stage in multiple fronts. They're amassing significant debt in the Chinese economy, and Xi appears to be following the Putin leadership model for amassing and retaining power. As you look at how he's moved through the Politburo, which is what the government is called in China, he is using the Putin model to assimilate power and control. Xi is also very leery of Chinese capitalists, and unfortunately for that, Chinese capitalists are the people who have fueled China's incredible rise to power over the last 20 years. That's now in a little bit of flux because of the political situation. China is also becoming a significant military power. They just launched their second aircraft carrier this year, actually at the end of 2017. This is the first aircraft carrier they built themselves, the first one they purchased from Russia. This aircraft carrier is now engaged this week in exercises not far from where 3 American carrier groups are operating. I don't think that's coincidental. They also have the J-20 air superiority fighter, which is practically a carbon copy of the US F-22, and the Shenyang 31, which is a carbon copy of the US F-35 Joint Strike Fighter. They've got the Shenyang J-15, which is a copy of the Russian Sukhoi Su-33, which is a remarkably good fighter aircraft. And they've developed some hypersonic missiles, the DF-21 Delta. That's a hypersonic anti-ship missile specifically designed to kill aircraft carriers. The 094 class ballistic missile submarines, they're out patrolling waters now. They've developed a very credible blue water navy. They're developing a strong air force, but they still don't have numbers of aircraft, but they are beginning to get capable aircraft. They're developing a very strong and significant army. They've got a very large number of people in their military, and they're developing significant capability. China is now a power to be reckoned with on the world stage. They have parity with Russia, and they are rapidly achieving parity with the United States, especially in asymmetrical warfare. That means warfare that is not conventional in nature. Conventional warfare is set piece. Tanks against tanks, infantry against infantry, aircraft against aircraft. Asymmetrical warfare is sort of like terrorism. It's where they attack you where you're weakest, they attack you where you're not looking, and they don't go against your military, they go against your infrastructure. China is developing significant capabilities, and they are becoming a power to be reckoned with. I want to stop for a commercial break, and we'll continue right after this.
Behind the Lines with J.R. McGee will continue after these commercials. Listen to Behind the Lines on demand. Go to Behind the Lines on YouTube.com. Click on the subscribe button, and then click on the bell icon. You'll be alerted to live updates from J.R. McGee 24/7 as news breaks from around the world.
At Buckman's, we're passionate about skiing, snowboarding, and having fun with friends and family. Everything we do, from the gear we carry to the services we offer, is driven by this passion. Since our first shop opened in 1971 until today, we are proud that all our stores are family-owned and operated. Our online store, buckmans.com, also reflects this passion. When you order from us, an actual skier or snowboarder ships your order out of an actual shop, not some giant warehouse. It's our mission to share our love for the outdoors with you, so you and your loved ones can experience winter to its fullest. You may not have heard of us, but if you want that mom and pop feel, combined with the expert knowledge and award-winning service that comes from over 45 years of experience, why not give us a try? Buckmans.com.
I want to take a second and tell you about some really good friends of mine. Buckman's ski and snowboard shops. Staying warm is important for every skier and snowboarder. The secret to warmth is found in what you wear, and the key is layering. At Buckman's ski and snowboard shops, you'll find the biggest selection of long underwear, fleece pullovers, vests, jackets, pants, and shells. You'll also find hundreds of gloves, mittens, hats, neck-ups, and socks you can choose from. So, get outside and stay warm this winter. Stop by Buckman's ski and snowboard shops in King of Prussia, Ardmore, Montgomeryville, Doylestown, Reading, Whitehall, and Exon, PA. Or you can visit them online at buckmans.com.
Support Behind the Lines with J.R. McGee. As an independent media voice, we rely on our sponsors to support our program. Contact us 267-935-9042 to advertise on Behind the Lines. Behind the Lines with J.R. McGee continues.
Welcome back. Let's take a look in detail at the trade war issue that seems to be going on today. You know, the Trump administration has said that they're serious about protecting America. America first. Make America great again. And for better or worse, Trump has been a man of his word in this. He's taken several actions that have gone a long ways towards changing the way that we operate in regards to other countries around the world. In particular, China. China has been a particular focus of President Trump's. And Trump has made it very clear both in his campaign and once he became president that he wanted to right what he sees as the wrong in how China treats America and others in terms of fairness. And I have to tell you, as a business leader, as someone who teaches leadership, one of the things that I've found that triggers an immediate reaction in people, it's the strongest reaction and it's the most predictable reaction in human beings, and that is a response to a perceived injustice. The moment someone thinks somebody has been unfairly wronged or an injustice has occurred, many people, most people, will spring to their defense, or most people will rise up to defend their own self-interest. Anytime there's an injustice that is present or is apparent, it triggers a tremendous response to people. I think President Trump tapped into that in his campaign. There has been a strong perceived sense of injustice in how America is treated by other countries. We've been very strong. We've been economically powerful for a long time. And I think people have come to take us for granted, and they've taken advantage of us. And one of the things President Trump wanted to do is address this sense of injustice with China in particular. And he's done a couple of different things, but what's in the news right now, and frankly, people are losing their minds. The news media and some of the politicians seem to be losing it over his actions with these trade tariffs. I was not a fan of them. I'm not a fan of impeding free trade. I think we should be able to compete on our own right, and if we make bad deals, that's on us. But we've gone down this road now of administering trade tariffs and on a broad array of Chinese imports. And China didn't waste any time in responding. Donald Trump put $50 billion worth of trade tariffs into place, and China reacted to that. And their response was very measured. It was very well thought through. It's very strategic. What they did is they targeted American manufacturing and American farming. Ironically, these are in the states that are most likely to support President Trump. They're most likely to be his voter base. These are not things that you find in large urban areas, which is where the liberal population is concentrated. This is mostly in rural America, farming and manufacturing, and that is exactly what the Chinese targeted, which it appears that they've thought this through, and they're attacking Donald Trump's base. It's a very shrewd move on their part. Donald Trump tweeted something this week, And it, quote, when you're already $500 billion down, and he's referring to the trade deficit, you can't lose. He's talking about imposing another $100 billion more in tariffs on China, on top of the $50 billion. Now, if he does that, then there's a very strong likelihood we could enter into some type of trade war. And I think that both sides would lose. In the longer term, I think we're going to have problems. And not because of the reason the mainstream media and the politicians are talking about. I think it's a different problem. I think the problem we're going to have is the Chinese recognize that they're in a profoundly unfavorable position. Their president, Xi Jinping, he talks real nice. He talks very strongly about free trade when it's in China's interests. When the trade's not in China's interest, then they take a more socialist point of view, and they will use predatory practices. They'll dump parts and material on the market to drive out competition. China has engaged in some very serious theft of intellectual property, material, and rights. I've been invited to work in China more than once, and I and my company have been very leery of working in China, specifically because the only thing I have is intellectual property. I do executive coaching, I do leadership development, I do Lean Six Sigma, I do business process improvement, we do business transformations. All of that is stuff that's in my head. I don't make anything tangible. We don't sell anything. So if I lose my intellectual property, I've lost everything in my company. So I've been very, very leery. I don't rule it out. I might work in China. I have worked with Chinese here in the United States very successfully. In fact, I respect them a great deal. They're very, very intelligent, very motivated, very hardworking. But China has engaged in some incredibly serious theft of intellectual property, and that's estimated that America has lost up to $300 billion a year in intellectual property. Now, that's a substantial amount of money. To put that into context, if you go back to the year 2002, that was approximately our entire budget for military spending, not including foreign aid or for the Veterans Administration. $300 billion a year was approximately the entire budget for the military spending for an entire year. That's how much money we're losing every year in intellectual property theft. That's significant. There's another issue that I think is going to create problems for us in the long term. And that is if China feels like that they are losing, if China feels like they're coming out on the short end of the stick, they've already demonstrated the fact that they will fight to win. They don't play by the rules. They absolutely will do what it takes to win. And they already feel like they're in an unfavorable situation with trade, even though we spend a whole lot more money with them than they do with us. That actually creates a dependency for them. Now, there's something else that I want to say about this. I believe that when China is truly ready for conflict with the United States, and I believe they will be, the amount of money that we owe them is nothing. It's irrelevant. Friends of mine that I respect tell me that the amount of money that we owe them will ensure that they will always cooperate with us. I don't believe that for a second. I don't believe that for a second. China sees her role as becoming a dominant world superpower. In fact, I believe they want to be the world superpower. And with the money that she can make as the world's dominant superpower, that relegates our debt to them as mere peanuts. They will absolutely just wipe that away if they could take advantage of us or defeat us in the economic or the military battlefield. And remember, China has been playing a long game strategy for thousands of years. In fact, they've been playing the strategic game since the Ming Dynasty was making Ming vases that were brand new. That's a long time. China's also engaged in some very significant cyber warfare. We've talked about this in an earlier program. They stole the information from Lockheed Martin, Boeing, Raytheon, the FDIC. They've attacked our electrical grid, our financial networks, and numerous attacks on the Pentagon. With America's naval dominance, Beijing would be foolish to rule out the possibility that the United States could escalate this trade war into an economic blockade or worse. So to preserve their autonomy, I think the Chinese are going to be willing to do whatever is necessary and whatever that takes to ensure that they not only survive, but they come out on top.
Behind the Lines with J.R. McGee will continue after these commercials. Listen to Behind the Lines on demand. Go to Behind the Lines on YouTube.com. Click on the subscribe button, and then click on the bell icon. You'll be alerted to live updates from J.R. McGee 24/7 as news breaks from around the world.
At Buckman's, we're passionate about skiing, snowboarding, and having fun with friends and family. Everything we do, from the gear we carry to the services we offer, is driven by this passion. Since our first shop opened in 1971 until today, we are proud that all our stores are family-owned and operated. Our online store, buckmans.com, also reflects this passion. When you order from us, an actual skier or snowboarder ships your order out of an actual shop, not some giant warehouse. It's our mission to share our love for the outdoors with you, so you and your loved ones can experience winter to its fullest. You may not have heard of us, but if you want that mom and pop feel, combined with the expert knowledge and award-winning service that comes from over 45 years of experience, why not give us a try? Buckmans.com.
Are you frustrated having the same conversation with your people over and over and they just don't get it? Develop the ability to better understand your customers' motivations and have a positive impact on their decisions to significantly benefit you and your organization. Dynamic profiling is an extremely powerful leadership tool that allows you to understand what people are saying and, more importantly, why they say it. Dynamic profiling is powerful, practical, and fast. Unlike personality assessments, this allows you to deeply understand others in real time through simple conversation and observations. Dynamic profiling will also improve your hiring decisions, reduce turnover and increase productivity, increase your sales closure rates, improve customer relations, and much more. Dynamic profiling builds on your current understanding of personalities in order to quickly understand anyone through a 30 to 90 second routine, normal, casual conversation. Contact us today at info@x-slg.com or 610-908-2223 to learn how you can become a dynamic profiler.
I want to take a second and tell you about some really good friends of mine. Buckman's ski and snowboard shops. Staying warm is important for every skier and snowboarder. The secret to warmth is found in what you wear, and the key is layering. At Buckman's ski and snowboard shops, you'll find the biggest selection of long underwear, fleece pullovers, vests, jackets, pants, and shells. You'll also find hundreds of gloves, mittens, hats, neck-ups, and socks you can choose from. So, get outside and stay warm this winter. Stop by Buckman's ski and snowboard shops in King of Prussia, Ardmore, Montgomeryville, Doylestown, Reading, Whitehall, and Exon, PA. Or you can visit them online at buckmans.com.
Support Behind the Lines with J.R. McGee. As an independent media voice, we rely on our sponsors to support our program. Contact us 267-935-9042 to advertise on Behind the Lines. Behind the Lines with J.R. McGee continues.
The second area that I want to talk about is the South China Sea Islands. What are those? Well, that's a series or a chain of islands in the South China Sea that's been contested by a lot of different countries. They're made up of what's called the Spratly Islands, the Paracel Islands, the Scarborough Shoals, and one island in particular called Fiery Island. China has appropriated these. They've made a sweeping claim of sovereignty over the entire area. And frankly, it's economic as well as military. There's an alleged 11 billion barrels of untapped oil and an estimated 190 to 250 trillion cubic feet of natural gas in that area. So there's a tremendous amount of economic value to that. In addition to, it's an incredibly rich fishing ground, enough fish there to feed the world. So it's got a tremendous amount of natural resources in there that make it very, very attractive. In addition, $5 trillion worth of goods and material are shipped through that area to China, from the Philippines, from Malaysia, all those areas in there. The shipping goes through that. It's a very, very active shipping area. This has got some long-term history behind it. Originally, it was called the 9-Dash Line, and that was from the Republic of China in 1947. They made some claims to the South China Sea. This was adopted by Zhou Enlai, who was the premier of China at that time. And, you know, there's a lot of different groups and countries who've laid claim to these same islands. Malaysia, Vietnam, the country of Brunei, Taiwan, Indonesia, and the Philippines. On July the 12th, in 2016, the Permanent Court of Arbitration in The Hague, that's considered to be the World Court for Maritime Law, they issued a ruling on a claim brought against China by the Philippines. And the court ruled in favor of the Philippines on every count. China lost, and lost big. China is a signatory to the UN Convention on the Law of the Sea, which establishes this tribunal, and yet now China refuses to accept that court's authority. And not only did they refuse to accept that court's authority, but China has appropriated these islands, and they've spent the last 3 years building the islands. They've brought in massive numbers of dredges and engineering equipment, and they've built these islands up. In some cases, they've dredged up sand from the seabed and constructed islands long enough and big enough to construct runways, air bases, housing, radar stations. They've turned these islands into something that is not only supportable and sustainable, but they've militarized them. And they've set up what's called an ADIZ, an Air Defense Identification Zone. They're trying to control all air traffic in and out of there, and they're trying to control maritime traffic. The United States is conducting what's called Freedom of Operation of the Seas missions. We send destroyers, frigates, and cruisers in there on occasion, and we go right up to the islands. And because we are maintaining our ability to traverse the seas and navigate the seas, we don't recognize their sovereignty over these islands, and we've challenged them. It's kind of funny. There was a recording. It's a recording that's online. You can download it if you'd like. But an American P-8, which is a intelligence aircraft, it's a submarine chasing aircraft, made a Freedom of the Skies mission over there. And one of the Chinese guys came on the radio in English and told them to turn back. And they didn't turn back. And he said, "You do not have authority to fly in this area. You must leave." And eventually, in frustration, he just says, "You go now. You go now." We just kept flying. But now, those islands have been equipped with surface-to-air missiles, surface-to-air gun systems. They've been equipped with anti-ship missiles. They have become very dangerous. This has changed the equation drastically. So we need to maintain the freedom of the seas, the freedom of navigation. We need to support the competing claims for Malaysia, Vietnam, Brunei, Taiwan, Indonesia, and the Philippines. But China has essentially taken these islands and they've turned them into theirs. And as you probably have heard since childhood, possession is 9/10 of the law. And they have got possession of these. So as we move into that, we got to look at what's going to happen with all this. Where is it going? China is beginning to develop a deep blue water navy. And they've put a lot of naval ships in this region as well. They are serious about claiming this as their own, in spite of and in the face of the law, the Treaty of the Seas, and the fact that other countries have been using those islands and fishing there and using them for many years. This is something that China has decided that they want to assert their aggressiveness on. I think this is the second biggest problem that we've got. Whereas the politicians and the news media seem to think the trade wars are the biggest issue right now, I don't. I think that's the least of the three. I think the South China Seas, that issue is very dangerous, and I think we've got to pay close attention to what's going on out there. I mean, they're very serious about it. China, they're trying to demonstrate that they have the naval capability to defend this. They have the engineering capability to build it, and they've got the national will to do what it takes to support it. I think that they've done an excellent job in this for no other reason than they're still there. And no one has mounted any type of credible alternative to that. No one has contested that other than the United States, the Philippines, and Vietnam driving ships and airplanes through their own freedom of the seas missions. That's the only thing we've done to stop this. I don't see China giving those islands up anytime soon. And I think that if they do establish control over that and they form a de facto ADIZ that becomes recognized over time, that that gives them significant control. Look it up on a map. And on the video for this show, I will have a map that you can see, that you'll look at, so that you can see the strategic importance of the location of this particular waterway. Number one, it's huge. Number two, it's on one of the primary shipping lanes for global commerce. And number three, it provides a substantial buffer for China that will be difficult for other countries to deal with in the case of conflict. It's a master stroke on their part. The other thing is the Blue Water Navy that China's developing is operating in that region. And they're using their brand new aircraft carrier, the Liaoning, which is a very nice aircraft carrier. And they're really developing the capability to use naval air combat skills and strength. They've got 40 ships out there, and they're doing exercises. They're doing naval exercises. And where that's really an issue is we've got 3 aircraft carrier groups in roughly the same area. They're off the shores of North Korea and Guam. They're not in danger of entangling each other. It's not an accident that China is doing an exercise with a large naval task force in the very close proximity to the naval task force. I think it's designed to send a message to the United States, and it's also designed to demonstrate to the rest of the world that China has become a nuclear power to be reckoned with. We'll be back right after this.
Behind the Lines with J.R. McGee will continue after these commercials. Listen to Behind the Lines on demand. Go to Behind the Lines on YouTube.com. Click on the subscribe button, and then click on the bell icon. You'll be alerted to live updates from J.R. McGee 24/7 as news breaks from around the world.
At Buckman's, we're passionate about skiing, snowboarding, and having fun with friends and family. Everything we do, from the gear we carry to the services we offer, is driven by this passion. Since our first shop opened in 1971 until today, we are proud that all our stores are family-owned and operated. Our online store, buckmans.com, also reflects this passion. When you order from us, an actual skier or snowboarder ships your order out of an actual shop, not some giant warehouse. It's our mission to share our love for the outdoors with you, so you and your loved ones can experience winter to its fullest. You may not have heard of us, but if you want that mom and pop feel, combined with the expert knowledge and award-winning service that comes from over 45 years of experience, why not give us a try? Buckmans.com.
I want to take a second and tell you about some really good friends of mine.
Buckman's ski and snowboard shops. Staying warm is important for every skier and snowboarder. The secret to warmth is found in what you wear, and the key is layering. At Buckman's ski and snowboard shops, you'll find the biggest selection of long underwear, fleece pullovers, vests, jackets, pants, and shells. You'll also find hundreds of gloves, mittens, hats, neck-ups, and socks you can choose from. So, get outside and stay warm this winter. Stop by Buckman's ski and snowboard shops in King of Prussia, Ardmore, Montgomeryville, Doylestown, Reading, Whitehall, and Exon, PA. Or you can visit them online at buckmans.com.
Behind the Lines with J.R. McGee continues.
The third issue that I want to look at tonight is what I consider to be the most dangerous and difficult situation with China, and that's the aggression and the aggressiveness with which they are dealing with the Taiwan situation. Now, Taiwan is a country. They do not enjoy recognition at the UN as a country. In fact, a lot of countries don't recognize Taiwan as a country, but the United States does. In fact, the United States has provided support and security for Taiwan since the end of World War II. And there's a lot going on in Taiwan right now. There was recently elections for a new president, and they had a conservative leader who was elected, President Tsai Ing-wen. And I may be pronouncing her name wrong. If I am, please forgive me. She's of the Democratic Progressive Party. Now, don't get excited. That's not the same Democratic Progressive Party that we have here in the United States. In fact, it's a conservative party. It's very center-right. She makes China very nervous. And the reason being is that she does not accept the 1992 consensus that there's only one China in principle, that China, Hong Kong, Shanghai, and Taiwan are all one China. She doesn't accept that. Her predecessor was President Ma Ying-jeou, and he was of the Kuomintang Party. And he did accept that consensus. In fact, he was very accommodating toward China. He was the leader of the Socialist Party and was very liberal and very, very pro-China. And so this new leader is making China very, very nervous. And that status quo, she has stated that she accepts the status quo, which is neither independence nor reunification. Her predecessor supported reunification. She says, we like the status quo. We're not going to declare independence, but we're not going to reunify with you either. China doesn't trust her. So China is trying to step up pressure, and they're doing this. They're doing it in several different ways. One way is China recently opened up several commercial air routes, and the air routes are dangerously close to Taiwan's airspace. In fact, they're conflicting with some of the Taiwan commercial air flights, especially the new route that was just opened up between Shanghai and Hong Kong. I think that route flies within 7 miles of the Taiwan ADIZ. That's the Aircraft Identification, Defense and Identification Zone. This was done deliberately. It was done to antagonize. China's also conducted several military flights recently. In fact, they've conducted 14 missions against Taiwan just in the last 6 months. That's more than they did in the last 2 years combined. Some of these flights were with nuclear-capable bombers. They did some of their fighter aircraft, and some of them, the Chinese aircraft completely circled the country of Taiwan. Very, very hostile acts that was ratcheting up the aggression. Now, Taiwan has purchased a great deal of American hardware. They purchased a lot of stuff from us, a lot of very good systems, both naval ships, air defense systems, aircraft. In fact, Lockheed Martin helped build the Taiwan Indigenous Fighter. It's a fighter aircraft very similar to the F-16. It's a very capable fighter aircraft. They're buying a lot of additional military hardware. In fact, there was a $1.42 billion arms package that was approved in June 2017. Donald Trump has just signed off on that, and we will be delivering that arms package to Taiwan in the near future. When Donald Trump was first elected president, he did something that completely upset the apple cart, and I think set some of this into motion, and I think in a good way. What happened is Donald Trump called the new president, Tsai Ing-wen, of the new party, and he called her and talked to her directly. He did that before he called China. Now, normally in the past, American presidents have only talked officially to the Chinese. We've conducted diplomacy with Taiwan, but the president's never spoken directly with the Taiwanese president. Donald Trump did that, and I think that not only was that breaking the diplomatic protocol, I think it was long overdue, and I think it got a lot of people's attention, and a lot of people that needed to wake up got a wake-up call with that. Trump now finds himself in some difficulty with Taiwan because China is becoming more and more aggressive against Taiwan. In fact, China recently made a statement. The moment a U.S. naval ship docks in Taiwan, China will forcibly, militarily, reunify Taiwan with China, whether they want it or not. It's basically an act of war. That could be a trigger point for a major conflict in the Pacific. Unfortunately, President Trump finds himself now in a real pickle because he's made a deal with the devil. He has formed a relationship with Xi Jinping, the premier president of China, and he needs Xi Jinping to help him with North Korea. And the Chinese have helped with North Korea considerably. There's been a lot of movement with that. And now Trump is engaged in some trade practices and the North Korea initiative. And it's very difficult for him to poke China too much in the nose. So it's really a question now of how far he can go to defend Taiwan and still get China's help in helping with North Korea. And frankly, the issue with North Korea is extremely difficult. We're probably going to have a whole show just on North Korea. It's that serious. So Trump is trying to figure out exactly what to do. And basically, he's sending mixed signals to Taiwan. And as a result, Taiwan is truly beginning to doubt America's sincerity and America's commitment. In fact, in their 2017 Defense Review, they specifically said that American commitment and policy towards Taiwan remains to be seen. That's a major statement, and it's a concerning statement in the face of some very serious Chinese aggression. I think that this is the number one element in terms of concern with China. China wants Taiwan. For them to not have sovereignty over Taiwan is both humiliating, embarrassing, and it's economically a concern. And here's why it's economically a concern. Taiwan is a major manufacturer of extremely high quality chips for computers and electronic equipment. Taiwan has got an extremely robust economy and a very dynamic manufacturing capability. And not just manufacturing in very, very high quality, high end electronic systems. And America's military and America's electronics communication digital networks are the beneficiary of Taiwan's technical expertise and technical manufacturing capabilities. If we lose Taiwan and Taiwan goes to China, we take a big hit in our ability to have access to the digital chips for our computers and our electronic systems and some of the electronic components that we need for our military and for our network and computer systems. Not only that, but China gains that, and that becomes a yet another source of manufacturing expertise for China, which would even make them a larger player on the world stage and a major step towards becoming a superpower. It would actually move them, in my opinion, a couple of steps up the chain, and they're already near peers. That could actually be what it takes to put them ahead. So I think this situation with Taiwan is incredibly important. It's potentially very dangerous. China's playing a very serious game here. They're committed. I think America needs to figure out exactly what we're going to do with Taiwan and make the decision as to just how important strategically they are to our economy, our military, and our security.
Behind the Lines with J.R. McGee will continue after these commercials. Listen to Behind the Lines on demand. Go to Behind the Lines on YouTube.com. Click on the subscribe button and then click on the bell icon. You'll be alerted to live updates from J.R. McGee 24/7 as news breaks from around the world.
At Buckman's, we're passionate about skiing, snowboarding, and having fun with friends and family. Everything we do, from the gear we carry to the services we offer, is driven by this passion. Since our first shop opened in 1971 until today, we are proud that all our stores are family-owned and operated. Our online store, buckmans.com, also reflects this passion. When you order from us, an actual skier or snowboarder ships your order out of an actual shop, not some giant warehouse. It's our mission to share our love for the outdoors with you, so you and your loved ones can experience winter to its fullest. You may not have heard of us, but if you want that mom and pop feel, combined with the expert knowledge and award-winning service that comes from over 45 years of experience, why not give us a try? Buckmans.com.
I want to take a second and tell you about some really good friends of mine. Buckman's ski and snowboard shops. Staying warm is important for every skier and snowboarder. The secret to warmth is found in what you wear, and the key is layering. At Buckman's ski and snowboard shops, you'll find the biggest selection of long underwear, fleece pullovers, vests, jackets, pants, and shells. You'll also find hundreds of gloves, mittens, hats, neck-ups, and socks you can choose from. So, get outside and stay warm this winter. Stop by Buckman's ski and snowboard shops in King of Prussia, Ardmore, Montgomeryville, Doylestown, Reading, Whitehall, and Exon, PA. Or you can visit them online at buckmans.com.
Support Behind the Lines with J.R. McGee. As an independent media voice, we rely on our sponsors to support our program. Contact us 267-935-9042 to advertise on Behind the Lines. Behind the Lines with J.R. McGee continues.
Welcome back. As we close out tonight, I want to take a look at what have we learned here? What does this all mean? And you know, if we're willing to get into a trade war with China, we need to really know who we're getting into a trade war with. China is a historic country, an ancient country, a proud country, a rich culture, and they've been trading with the world for a long, long time. In fact, in AD 1050, the Chinese navigators were already using the float compass long before most other countries were using that. In 1070, the Chinese developed dry docks. In the 1100s, Chinese junks, which is their ships, reached the Persian Gulf and the Red Sea. In the 13th century, Chinese ships were regularly venturing to India and occasionally to East Africa. China has been trading with the world for a long, long time. They know how to do that. They know exactly how to do that. So if we're going to get into a war, a trade war, with a country that's been doing this for 1,000 years, we need to know what we're doing. And then you look at the South China Sea issue. China is being very aggressive at how they're moving into this area. They're claiming dominion over it. They're claiming sovereignty over a very large part of the Pacific Ocean. That's got some significant ramifications to it for security, economics, military, and politics. Very serious ramifications. We need to truly understand what those are, and we need to determine whether or not we're willing to let them just simply do that and do it by fiat, or whether or not we want to claim rule of law. It's a big issue, and it's one that I think we've got to take very seriously. And this third area, and I'm going to park on this one for just a little bit more, this issue with Taiwan. You know, we've maintained Taiwanese security and safety since the end of World War II. Taiwan has served as a check on Chinese naval aggression, and Taiwan is a powerful trading partner with the United States. They've got a very vibrant economy and serious technical manufacturing capability. We've got to realize just how important that is to the United States. I've heard people say, why in the world are we looking at Taiwan? What do they do for us? Well, if you've got a cell phone and you like your cell phone, if you like your iPad, if you like your big screen TV, if you like your computer, if you like your digital network, a lot of those chips and a lot of that technology comes from Taiwan. Believe it or not, Taiwan and Israel is where a large percentage of technology that drives our culture and our society comes from today. And a lot of people want to turn their back on those two entities. That's where most of the brains and most of the technology is coming from. And with Taiwan, we have been their protectorate for a long time. That's now in question. And the fact that it's in question encourages China to push. And China has never been hesitant to push. You know, if we lose that, it's going to be bad enough. We're going to lose a lot of capability. We're going to lose access to technology. It may set some of our programs and some of our networks back. They may not progress nearly as fast. But even worse would be to have that then become part of China's technical development and China's economy and be a major trade partner with China. That would be a severe blow to American security and our military superiority. That, I believe, would make war with America far more likely, and that would endanger you and your family's safety and security. That's why I view the Taiwan issue as the greatest strategic threat from China today. There's a lot of people out there that don't agree with me, and that's fine. There's a lot of people that think that I'm looking at this wrong. I've looked at it carefully. I've considered it, and I think, because of the reasons that I've laid out to you tonight, that it is that serious. I think we need to take it more seriously, and I think we need to let our politicians and our representatives know. We need to call them and let them know Taiwan is important. Taiwan is more than a friend. Taiwan is essential to America's economy, America's networks, and America's security. We have to take care of that. We have to deal with that. China is growing, and you know, we were never going to be the dominant superpower for all of history. If you go back and look, superpowers stay superpowers for 100, 200 years, and then they fade and somebody else takes their place. We have taken it for granted that we would always be a superpower. Not true. Just like some businesses become world class, like Starbucks, like Walmart, like FedEx, but they don't always stay world class. If they don't stay focused, if they don't pay attention, if they don't keep working hard, they no longer are world class. It's the exact same thing with countries. Once we begin taking things for granted, once we begin not working hard, once we begin to coast, it's all downhill from there. America can be great. I believe in this country. I believe in what we do. I believe in who we are. And I believe we can go do anything in the world. It is certainly not too late. I think we should be paying attention to China, but there's other places we need to pay attention to, and that's the subject of our next shows on Behind the Lines with J.R. McGee. I want to thank my board man tonight, Mark Driver. I want to thank my producer, Chris O'Brien. And I want to thank you, my listeners. I really appreciate your comments. I appreciate your emails. I really thank you for your support. Good night, and God bless.
Behind the Lines is copyright 2018.
Are you frustrated having the same conversation with your people over and over and they just don't get it? Develop the ability to better understand your customers' motivations and have a positive impact on their decisions to significantly benefit you and your organization. Dynamic profiling is an extremely powerful leadership tool that allows you to understand what people are saying and, more importantly, why they say it. Dynamic profiling is powerful, practical, and fast. Unlike personality assessments, this allows you to deeply understand others in real time through simple conversation and observations. Dynamic profiling will also improve your hiring decisions, reduce turnover and increase productivity, increase your sales closure rates, improve customer relations, and much more. Dynamic profiling builds on your current understanding of personalities in order to quickly understand anyone through a 30 to 90 second routine, normal, casual conversation. Contact us today at info@x-slg.com or 610-908-2223 to learn how you can become a dynamic profiler.